You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158.
Welcome to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. In today's episode, we meet Jake, a Coast Guard veteran and former firefighter whose story begins with pain, perseverance, and purpose. From dropping out of high school and losing his mother to nearly getting arrested the day before enlisting, Jake's path was anything but traditional. But through grit, brotherhood, and a desire to serve, he found his footing and his voice. Let's start with part one.
Welcome back, everybody, to another wonderful episode of the 8158 podcast, Stories of Sacrifice. Today, we have an awesome guest. He's outstanding. He's an amazing person, and he's definitely got some amazing charisma. Today, we have Diesel Dad Jake. Follow Diesel Dad Jake on TikTok. If you ain't, you should. With that being said, how's it going, Jake?
You know what, Rico? I'm doing well, brother, and I appreciate you having me on this podcast. This is a heck of an opportunity, and I'm super excited about this. And I know my followers are too. So I think that kind of building the brand, building the following, building things like that is really important to all this.
Absolutely, it's definitely important. There's a lot of sensitive topics that we're going to talk about, and a lot of these things have to be addressed. And it's just something that people need to know, because without knowledge, there is no power. So,
1,000%, I agree.
So, from what I understand, you have a bunch of notes handy.
I do. I was prepared for this one. The pre-interview is just like a little bit of a conversation, right? And so I was like, wow, well, this has been fun, but let me actually get down to business here on the actual interview, right?
Right. So we're going to start off with some really sensitive topics, like we're going to touch on mental health and your personal journey. So you faced a lot in your life. You definitely had a lot of trauma. You lost your mom. You had trauma in your military service, and also in firefighting. When did you first realize mental health was something that you needed to address?
So to be completely honest, it really didn't hit until COVID. So I was running a lot of calls through COVID, and at that time I had 2 kids. And so it didn't really hit me until I had kids. Like a lot of this stuff, a lot of these mental health issues did not hit me until I had kids. I don't know what happened, but I guess I became a big old softie. And so you see other people suffering, and it's funny. I guess it's not funny, but you're desensitized to a lot of these topics. You're desensitized to a lot of trauma. You're desensitized to this because as a first responder, you're waiting on somebody's worst day. They're not calling you to have fun. They're not calling you for a complaint like that. They're calling us because they need us in most cases. It's tough. I mean, it's tough to deal with that. We had a CPR patient on a baby. That was tough. Yeah, that's not fun. Most of the people we helped through COVID were more priority 4 than 1. And so you're working on people, you're working on stuff, and they ain't coming back. You have to live with that and look at those families, right? And so I'm a family with kids.
Right.
What happens if someone tells me that daddy ain't coming back? So it kind of hit me more when I had kids. And it was the strangest thing in all reality. It really felt like it hit me like a brick wall. And it came out of nowhere. It came out of thin air. And it was, I still remember my first call in that respect. And to understand how all these people have all these bad days and they're here for, they're calling for us, right? We're here to be the person. We're here to be that savior in a way and I hate to say it in that sense, but you're there to be able to try and assist, to try and prolong life, try and save that life, try and do whatever you can, if that comes down to it, or you come down to the fact of even just a sick call. I mean, every patient should be able to get that same type of treatment, right? No matter what they are calling an emergency service, they deserve to get that treatment. But just remember, you have to keep it together. You've got to keep it together the entire time. It's not one of those things where you go into a house and you're like, oh, we're not dealing with that. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. You go into a situation and you're like, oh, well, how do we deal with this? Do we need an assist? Do we need anything else? What's the size up? What's everything like that? And so you asked why I got into this, right? Because of the mental health, because of all this. And all of this has a big thing to do with it.
Right.
I never understood that there was anything wrong with me. I thought, man, I just can't sleep. It's not a thing. I haven't slept since, 2006. And so coming to that realization and realizing wow, this is starting to affect my daily life. This is one of the things that I'm waking up and I'm going, wow, I don't feel like I got enough sleep. I'm waking up in a sweat because of something that happened on a call or something that happened 20 years ago, or at this point, 15 years ago from the military removed, right?
Right.
We get into these things, and a lot of these issues are, we aren't dealing with it. We talk about it, but we aren't dealing with it, and we aren't processing it, and we may find a way to cope, but do we find a way to keep moving forward? Do we find a way to keep trying to be happy? Can we find a way not just to smile through, but to keep going?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not immune from that. I'm not immune from being at that rock bottom point.
Right.
Heck, I've had a really bad day today. But in the same respect, you got to understand, we still got to be happy about it, right? We still got to turn that positive spin. And so that's why I got into this, though. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of everything, right? We see it on TikTok. We see it on everything else. We see it on whatever platform you can imagine, okay? Where's the people talking positively about it? We've got maybe 4 or 5 people that I can see that talk positively about it.
Right.
Why not continue to do that? Why not continue full disclosure, I'm a non-combat veteran. Sometimes people see that as, oh, well, you didn't go to war. You don't have that. Okay. There's other things. There's other stuff. And what I always try to tell people, PTS is not always towards veterans. It's not always towards first responders. Yes, it's very magnified in this community, but there are other people that suffer. And the fact that there's so many people on here, on these platforms and everything else like that, talking about mental health, talking about this, but what are you doing? 1 out of 10 maybe has a foundation. 1 out of 10 maybe has done something. Maybe they've used their money to throw it towards charity. I don't take any money from TikTok. I don't take any money from any of this. I pass it forward because it needs to go forward. TikTok to some is even for some for mental health, right? And so we've all been through therapy. We've all been through things like that. And to me, talking about it is therapy. To me, talking about it in a platform such as TikTok, a platform such as this, a platform such as even speaking to people every day here at the Legion, here at the VFW. It all starts with a conversation. And I've learned that. And that's been kind of a theme of kind of who I am. This mental health starts as a conversation. And that's how I got into it. And that's how you and I got into it, right? We started talking. And so we continue that conversation. And that's kind of my theme, right? And, I get asked a lot, why did you get into this? Or what is your platform? Or what do you do? Heck, you've asked me that a few times, right?
Right.
And so I do it because I'm so tired of seeing negativity. And I'm so tired of seeing no action. I'm so tired of seeing none of that happen. Like, we talk about it, but we don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in a long roundabout way, that's my answer. I wanted to see more action on it. I wanted to see more things in my local chapters. I wanted to see more involvement on mental health. I wanted to see more positivity, not just talking about it. Yeah, anxiety sucks. Depression sucks. What are we doing about it? Okay, go to therapy. But how about us normal people? How about us normal people around here? And, even vets, there's a lot of vets that may have been embarrassed of their service for some other reason. I know all I thought about was the negative stuff that used to happen in the service. It took me 10 years to realize that positivity exists. Like, we have positive records in our service. We have positive things like that. It's like, but why were we thinking about it negatively? Why were we thinking about any of it like that? I've met a lot of friends. I've met a lot of people on here, and people that I can resonate with, people that I can talk with, people that I call friends, people that I've met and become part of this family. You found me on this platform speaking about mental health.
Right.
I'm trying to make a change in the respect of, let's get some younger people involved in these organizations. Let's actually do something. Be actionable about it.
Right.
Hold accountable. None of us are perfect, and I don't ever claim to be perfect. I've screwed up enough in my life. I've made enough mistakes. I'm still making them. Okay, even at 35 years old, I'm still making mistakes, and I'll be 36 in a week and a half. Okay. Life's not over because you make a mistake. Life's not over because you had a bad day. Life's not over because you've had a bad time in service or a bad call. Life's not over because of that. It's a lesson that we learn, and a lesson that I try to take through here on social media, because throughout these platforms, again, TikTok, I'm so sorry I'm ignoring you. Hi, how are you? Hello.
Hello, TikTok.
And so it's things like that. Like, I wanted to see more action. I wanted to see more things in my community. Like, I live in Maryland right now.
Right.
Do you know how many veterans are here in Maryland? Do you know how many people still don't know what we do? Oh, Legion, just a bar. VFW, it's just a good old boys club. No. We have pillars that we stand on. Yeah, we have pillars that we stand on. It's not just us. It's first responders in our community that are here. And we support our entire community, not just veterans. Yes, that's our main focus. Of course, this is our place. We want you to be at a place where you're calm, where you're feeling loved, where you're feeling accepted. Once you get out, I always tell people it's service after service. Same with mental health. Mental health will always be here, and so will your service. But it's what you do after your service that really comes down to how you help your community. I'm a disabled vet. I'm not ashamed to say it one bit. And the thing is, there's other people that are out there. I mean, you think about this. Veterans make up about 3.7% of the United States population as far as United States veterans.
Yeah.
How about disabled vets? You know how many disabled vets make up that number? Just under 2%.
That's a lot.
And talk about minorities. Now, minorities that are affected, minorities that are disabled, minorities that are part of the vets.
Right.
Now we're talking demographics here. We have a lot of advocates, but what are we doing? We have advocacy, but we need action. And so that's kind of half the reason I did that, right? And so, again, long roundabout reason why I kind of got into this.
Yeah, it's pretty honorable. I had experiences with the VFWs going there with my uncle and my cousin. I remember, they have cookouts and, they get together and socialize and they have dinners and stuff like that. So we go over there during those special occasions when they have, taco night or whatever they're having at that time. Just so they can get together and socialize and talk and, I thought that was pretty awesome.
1,000%. And that's what we are. We're here. It's like just in social media. We're here to build a community. That's what we're here for. We're here to be a community.
Right.
We're here to be somebody to come into. You got an issue? Let us help you. We're not gatekeeping anything. I want to help
Right.
you. And I tell people at all time, how can I help? I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to text with. I'm here to message, whatever. I may not get to everything. But the goal is, right, to make one person smile at the end of the day, and a genuine smile. I don't know if you caught that live, but a genuine smile, not just a how you doing? Connect with somebody, talk with them, a real smile. And that's wholeheartedly what I believe in.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty awesome of you taking action. I know there's more that I can do that I'm working on to help myself. I'm not going to disclose that yet.
No, that's okay.
But we do have some things in the works, and I am going to be taking some webinars and stuff like that and trying to get some certifications. But
awesome.
We do have some ideas and some things to take action and try to help people in that manner. So, so we're going to try to do our part. I'm not a veteran. I'm not a first responder by any means, but, I grew up around it. And my cousin, after his passing or after he was killed, that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm not a perfect person. I had my opportunities and I blew it. So this is my way of giving back and trying to do more.
You're doing a hell of a job, to be honest with you. I mean, I've gone through your content. I've gone through your podcast, and me, I'm not going to blow smoke.
Right.
And so what you're doing, don't ever discredit that. Don't ever discredit what you're doing, because what you're doing is incredible. And it's the bystander theory, right? Like, hey, someone else will take care of this. Someone else will do that. Oh, someone else is already doing that. Okay, that's fine. I ended up doing this for me initially.
Right.
But I realized it's like, me is not important. It's everybody else still too. Like it's, that's what social media should be. It should be about community. And that's what you're doing. You're building a community. You're building a following. You're building awareness. You're using your sources for good. Right. And so that's the idea behind this. We want to be able to do this for good. We want to be able to continue to do the work we're doing. And I mean, although this isn't like the ideal thing to have on social media, that's, sometimes it's boring to people to hear these things and it sounds like NPR or something like that. But I think it's important to open up that conversation. I know I keep going back to conversation and starting conversation and doing things like that, but that's what this is. No matter how you look at it, we're here for conversation. And without a conversation, we can't start healing.
Right. Yeah. This whole thing, when it started, it was just to shine light on, law enforcement and stuff. And I knew my cousin wanted us to address, all first responders, because he was just that kind of a person. It's not always about him. He cared about everybody. And every episode, everybody we talked to, it seemed like, the same topics come up with mental health. And it was alarming, and it really hurt. It like broke our hearts, and we felt like it was something that we had to address and to touch on, not just to touch on, to dive into. Let me just say that we're going to dive into it.
Yeah.
I have my own mental health issues from compounding traumas as in childhood and stuff like that. That I address. I obviously in therapy and stuff like that, and to have to take medications because I have severe panic attacks. But those issues are addressing, and also through the podcast, it helps too to know that it's therapy for me, because I know that I'm not alone. It doesn't matter whether you're a police officer or a firefighter or just an average person. We all have the same struggles, and a lot of us have a lot of traumas. And
Yep.
my aim and my goal is to help people through those, traumas and through the, all of the mental health issues.
Yep.
And hopefully, if it just helps one person, that would be fantastic. But I want to
Exactly.
continue to reach out to other people to get the word out there, to spread the word. And I want it to be loud. I want it to be
Yep.
so loud that it is heard, not just by the people. I want it to be heard by the government. I
Hell
want
yeah.
them to,
Absolutely.
because
Listen, Rico, I wholeheartedly expect you to be next to me sitting in Congress talking about things. There's a
trust
lot
me,
of
we've
stuff we need to
talked
work
about
on.
that. Yeah. And like the other thing is that, you know, yeah, I'm not a first responder or whatever. I wasn't in the military. I had my chance. I blew it. But you guys took care of us. It's our turn to take care of you in your time of need. And that's the way I see this podcast, is me taking
Sure.
care of you guys, trying to help you guys out in a way that I couldn't in the beginning when I was going through my struggles and being a knucklehead or whatever.
Dude, we all
But
did
yeah,
it. Are you kidding me? I almost got arrested the day before I went to boot camp. I can't even make that up. I wish I could. I wish I could. Like, it was like this close for me not shipping out.
yeah,
And it was for the dumbest reasons. And it's for the other reason I advocate for today. And we talked about that in the pre-interview, but I don't want to get nannered on anything. And so Captain Ken here in my chat says, when we got out there was no sympathy for help. People didn't like Vietnam. Ken, we need to talk because we advocate for a lot of Vietnam vets. Sorry to break
yeah,
off. It caught my eye.
yeah. I think it
And
should.
so let's talk.
Yes.
Let's talk about this. Why not? Let's talk about this. So, guys, I'm going to put it back on my headphones. I do want you to hear what he has to say, but it's easier for me to hear when I'm on here.
Let me tell you, I have had family members that were at war in Vietnam, the Marines, Navy, and whether people liked it or not, these are our soldiers. These are our family.
100%. And so I'm the historian at my post for the American Legion. If you can tell, this background here, TikTok, check this out. This is my museum. And it's not just my museum. It is our museum. It is
Right.
our museum for here in Frederick. And that means a lot. And speaking about Vietnam vets, speaking about World War II vets, speaking about Korea vets, speaking about Gulf War vets, speaking about Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam veterans, however, were the forgotten veterans.
Yes.
And forgive my language, but it was fucked up. It was fucked up.
Yeah.
It still is. What they did was wrong. It'll never go out to be that it wasn't wrong.
Right.
I'm not saying that. Listen, we can go into another conversation regarding all that, but we have something back here called the Last Man's Club. And any of my vets out there, you know what a Last Man's Club is. When you come into places like this, I want you to feel the history. I want you to feel the voices.
Right.
I want you to feel what those boys felt coming back. There's uniforms all over this place. There's uniforms behind me. There's flags behind me. All of these uniforms here have done a tour of duty overseas. Let that sink in for a second. There's over 35 mannequins in that have uniforms. 20 of them are still alive. The other remain memories. Talking about this stuff makes it somber. Talking about hard things makes it hard and somber.
Right.
The Vietnam veterans, I'll never understand personally how they were treated, because that wasn't, I wasn't treated like that. But half of our population here, the generation that we have now coming through all this, is majority Vietnam. And what I always tell people, while we may be veterans, we're also people. We're still people, whether or not you've got some PTS, whether or not you've got whatever they call it, a sickness. We can talk about politics. We can talk about other things. We can talk about how these layoffs are going to affect veterans for 2-3 years going forward. But that's not what we're here for right now. What we're here for right now is to tell the story, right?
Yep.
And so talking about the Vietnam veterans is always tough. We were able to be at the we host a Vietnam Veterans Dinner. We actually hold war dinners here at the Legion. So we hold a Vietnam we hold a World War II dinner, we hold a Vietnam Veterans Dinner, and then we hold a like GWAT, and like basically we call it all of the wars. So GWAT, Desert Storm, and things like that. It may not seem like much, but maybe some of these guys don't get out. Maybe some of these guys don't have any family left. Maybe some of these guys, the divorce rate for a Vietnam vet is 3 in 10 people are going to be married 3 times. That's pretty high, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's very high.
It's tough. It's tough to see that. And like now we got GWAT guys coming back. It's not even GWAT anymore. We're coming out of the GWAT range. And so what's this next one going to bring? How do we adapt and help them? What kind of traumas are going to face them? Are they going to be afraid of drones? Are they going to be afraid of electronics? Are they going to be afraid of, and I shouldn't say afraid, I should say fearful in the fact that like they've experienced this in such a way that it's traumatizing. You got to be careful what you say, right? And that's always how it is.
Exactly.
But at some point, when do we stop being careful and start taking care of these fucking guys?
It's got to happen sometime.
Yeah,
Should start now.
I'm serious. Like it sucks. It just sucks. And everyone's like, oh, well, vets get all this help. Well, not always. That's why we have all these formations. Like that's why we formed all these charities. That's why we formed all of these things to be able to help this population.
Right.
And so it's I don't know. It's tough sometimes.
Yeah, it's totally disheartening to see how they were treated. I mean, I wasn't there, but I've heard the stories, and it's unfathomable.
Not enough help.
How people had treated veterans. I mean, most of them didn't have a choice. Most of them were sent without a choice. They were drafted. They had to go.
Yep. Drafted out. And yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. They did not have a choice to go fight for this country, but they still did.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd tell you, even given the choice again, I'd still do it all over again. 100,000% I'd do it all over again. The good, the bad, the ugly, it doesn't matter. I'd do it all over again.
Right.
And it sucks that right now I can't. But you know what? The next best thing I can do is help my fellow brother and sister in arms. Exactly. And but by helping them, I'm still helping the entire community out. They might not always be married to a veteran. They may not be married to another person like that, right? So we consider those people still civilians. They're not really dependents anymore. They're not active duty. They're not anything like that. And so, the community is kind of different sometimes, right? Right. We have to be able to intertwine into our regular communities. We have to be able to intertwine into daily life. Otherwise, how are we going to complete a mission? How are we going to help our fellow veteran without helping our community? How can we do that? Community and veterans are completely intertwined. We live here. And then, you know what? There's a lot of veterans who become first responders, cops, firefighters, prison guards, corrections officers and things like that. Civilian service. They are still completing service after service. And they don't get paid shit. We don't get paid a dime sometimes. When we volunteer, we get spit on. We volunteer to get spit on. We volunteer to get kicked. We volunteer to get cussed out. We volunteer to do everything like that. Some of us do it for free. Sure, when I get paid, it was like, great. Yeah, I got paid to get spit in the face by, a mental patient. But, that's that thought, right? Like, you're like, wow, what's happening here? Maybe they're having a really bad day. You don't think about those things afterwards, right? Like kind of a good debrief. And so a lot of those things, when I was removed from the fire service, really gave me and it was a volunteer, by the way. It was before my third kid was here, and my wife was like, "Hey, listen, hi, we don't see you very often." I'm like, "Yeah, I got you."
We will return after this quick ad break.
The William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, offer second chances to juvenile offenders who are working to rebuild their future, and help new recruits pursuing careers as first responders. Through generous donations and the sale of merchandise, we're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting impact. You can be a part of this mission as well. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. Together, we can support those who serve, honor those we've lost, and give hope to those who need it most. Behind every badge is a story, and behind every story is a sacrifice. This is the 8158 podcast, where we honor the lives and legacies of first responders and their families. If our mission speaks to your heart, if these stories move you like they move us, join us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you'll get ad-free listening, exclusive merchandise, behind-the-scenes content, and video episodes only available to our patrons. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you can be a part of it. Support us at patreon.com/8158podcast. Let's continue to share the stories that deserve to be heard.
I'm like, "Yeah, I got you." And so, out of respect for all that, right? It's, you got to be in here. You got to be able to support. I was talking to somebody today. If you don't have family, you don't have support. If you don't have anything like that, how are you going to keep going, right? And I'm not talking like a nuclear family. I'm not talking things like that. Family can be friends. Family can be coworkers. Family can be whoever you consider to be family. Family does not have to be blood by any means.
Exactly.
I have people closer in my life that I've known since I was this high that are closer to me than some of my direct family. I haven't lived that great of a freaking life, but you know what? I'm making do and I'm loving it.
Right. Exactly.
At some point, you have to hit that turn of was like, why am I so upset about everything? Why am I not doing stuff about this? And I know I say a lot of I statements. Someone told me I said a lot of I statements earlier, but it's the only way I know how to speak at times. And it's the fact that like, we do come into this as a we do come into this as a team. And you talk about Vietnam. You talk about old memories. And it's not just necessarily Vietnam. It's not necessarily Iraq. It's not necessarily Afghanistan. It's not necessarily the initial invasion. It's times also that you've spent on the ship with your boys. It's time that you spent out in the camps with your boys and girls or whoever, your family. I always call them boys because that's what I'm used to, okay? So, sorry, TikTok. I try to be as politically correct as possible, but I'm trying. And so...
Don't take offense to it, please.
I'll put the headphones back if it does. But, and so like speaking on that, right? Like we talk about memories, we talk about good times. Like not every time in the military was bad. We suffered from a lot of things, but not every time was bad. And part of my goal is to get people to start thinking positively. They always look at me and like, they're like, how the hell are you always smiling? I'm not. I am not always smiling. Half the time I'm sitting in my basement going, what is going on in my life and how did I get here? It's not that I'm blessed. It's not that I'm not blessed. Okay. It's it's two-sided in the fact that I'm blown away that I'm here doing what I'm doing now. I didn't think I'll be on TikTok,
Right.
streaming and then being on podcast and talking about my story and talking about other people's and talking about how we can help, how we can move forward. And you're making me think like these notes are just jack shit at this point. But
Yeah.
we'll get to some of it because there is a line in here that I had written down that I thought that summed up a lot of this, right?
Okay.
And it said, I didn't set out to be a creator advocate. I just got tired of watching people like me fall through the cracks.
Yes. Well said. 100%.
I couldn't think of a better way to describe it. It is very, very tough in my head. I can't imagine how tough it is for people around myself too.
Mm-hmm.
I take a lot of burden for everyone else, and that's always been me. You think of a barbershop where you go sit, be a place to talk, and feel a part of a family. People have always told me you feel like someone I can trust, someone I can give a hug to, someone I can count on. And that's me. It could be 2:00 in the fucking morning. I could be dead asleep, but you know what? I will get up, and if you need help and if you're within driving distance, I'll be there. I've got a lot of people that can vouch for me on that.
I
may not be a perfect person. Yeah, I may not be a perfect person. I'll never claim to be. I'm a piece of garbage that's been shined up over the past couple of years that has been made to look all right. And I like to think that it's the goatee that makes me look a little bit more refined here and a little bit better, right? And all about that, right? Like when people go onto social media, when people go onto things like that, I see a lot of fakeness. And I don't mean that in any offense to anything to anyone.
Right.
But there are a lot of shit that I see on the FYP that's going, like, it's not even on here. It's not even anywhere else. It's meta too. It's mindless. And I get that. But how can you call yourself an advocate if you're just sitting there saying nothing?
Right.
If you're not pissing someone off, sometimes you're not doing your job. Right now, I've got the current mayor of my town. He sent me a friend request on Facebook because I've made some waves, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because, anyways, that's a whole nother story for another day, but I'm not a person you want to get back to at that point.
Well, I personally wouldn't say you're a piece of garbage shined up.
Are you sure? I think I look pretty good shined up.
Well, shined up, yeah, but I always think of it as I never let my past override the future. I don't let my past dictate who I am today.
And let me retort on that, actually. You're going to love that. You should have known this by me coming in, right?
Yeah.
And so they always say, like in history. So I was a history major when I went to West by God, Virginia. Let's go Mountaineers. And so, shit, I'm going to forget where I'm going with this one now. Cool. We're in this stage. Great. All right. Retract me. So we talked about history. All right. So when I majored in history,
okay,
we always worry about, coming back and repeating our past, right? And so we learn about our past not to repeat it.
Right.
Same thing in life. We're not perfect people. There's a lot of people out there that aren't perfect either. We've all gone through our things. Civilian, first responder, vet, what have you. We've all gone through our shit.
That's for sure.
PTS is not a paint color specifically for first responders and veterans. It's a full spectrum.
Yeah.
Everyone has gone through experiences. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people have. And eventually when you find that community, you're like, wow, I'm not an outcast.
Right.
I am not unheard. When I get on, I get a lot of people who tell me, man, you're real. Shoot, who else can I be?
Right.
And so I go back to that, right? You know, we learn from our past for a reason. Don't forget your past. Don't compartmentalize. Don't get rid of it. Process it.
Right.
I'm not a licensed health professional by any means. I've gone through my journey of trying to heal, and from what I try to do is try to give the best advice I can, whether it be something that maybe someone needed to hear that day, maybe someone needed to see, or maybe whatever it had to be. But it's a thing that means a lot to me. And so with my mother passing on Christmas Day, that sucked. That was horrible. You know, we can get back into the past, and I think it's a perfect segue into a lot of this, right? You've dealt with childhood trauma.
Yeah.
I'm not immune from that. 80% of these people probably aren't immune from that, but they won't talk about it. Do you know how much it takes to even say something about it?
A lot, trust me.
How long did it take you to feel comfortable about it?
40-something years.
And you're still not fully comfortable with it, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
But I talk about it, though.
100%. What did I say? Conversation.
Yeah.
Conversation. And to me, that's more human connection, things like that. When I get on TikTok, when I talk, when I yap, I try to have a connection. I try to speak with people. It's not always easy for everyone that you see. There could be someone in a comment section. There could be someone outside in life hearing me talk about behind a bar going, wow, like, well, his day was that shitty. Mine wasn't too bad. Or it could be the opposite way around. It was like, wow, you know, or someone has literally, this is literally an example. Someone has overheard me talk at a bar and has come up and talked to me and we're like, holy shit, like that was your day? And I'm like, I don't understand that. Do I have an aura about me that someone want to come up and talk to me? There's a lot of time I don't like people. I don't want to be around people. I want to be alone. I want to run away. I want to go away. I don't want to be around anyone. And it's like, I'm a jovial person. I'm an outgoing person, but I am also a person that I do get overwhelmed. Then again, from that history, from all of that, I've tried to learn who I am, and I'm still learning. I'm 35-year-old. I'm still learning. Yeah. I haven't come to any of these conclusions by ease. It's been by trial by fire. It makes me sit back and think. It makes me shoot. It makes me like anxious. I touch my arms, I speak, I talk, and it's tough. I've compartmentalized an incredible amount in my life. And like a long trip, you just got to unpack it slowly.
Right.
You've got to come in. You've got to be able to deal with it and process it. You've got to be able to talk about it. You've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I know that's a saying that everyone says, but there's a lot that will make me uncomfortable in this life. Outside of the dentist, I still don't like the dentist. Sorry if I have any dentists watching. But it's that fear that I might fear having, to go to the dentist, that people fear talking about mental health.
Right.
Talking about what bothers them. Talking about what happened in the past. Not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to bring it up. And everyone's like, well, my problems aren't issues. It's not a big deal. It's everyone went through it. Well, maybe it's not a big deal to everyone else, but it's obviously a big enough deal to you. And I'm not talking like wear your heart on your sleeve here. I'm talking like even small baby steps of trying to say, hey, listen, we're here to talk. We're here to do this. We're here to just generate a conversation, generate something that will be effective enough to move forward. And it's not by moving it. It's not by moving an inch. Sometimes it's by moving a centimeter, and that's okay. It's not a one size fits all.
Right. Whatever
right?
works with that person. Yeah.
But again, learn from your history, process it. And every day that we do it, we don't get these gray hairs for nothing, brother.
I've got plenty of them.
Yeah.
Mine
And
are
so
white.
like I just got my hair cut and like, I've got my gray hairs too, but that's the thing. And it's like, you think about that, you think about putting a feather in your hat too, right? And you always see those old guys that got all this wisdom, and there's got to be a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, everyone's like, you're too young to feel like this. You're too young to be this hurt. Yeah, well, guess what? I'm not. That's
Right.
the problem, right? And that's also a stigma that you deal with. Oh, well, you're too young to deal with this. You're too young to do that. Brother, I got 3 kids. I ain't too young for much.
Right.
I've lived a life. I've done some things. I've done, it's you don't always that phrase of you don't judge a book by its cover. Absolutely don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a t-shirt by what it says. And so I don't know, like I have a lot to say, obviously, but it's things that aren't always easy to talk about. But for me, I've always been that non-politically correct friend. I've always been that friend that if you've got an issue, you come to me. We're either going to deal with it head on or I'm going to tell you you're an idiot. And I think that, and I'm glad that I have friends like that as well now.
Right.
It has taken a long, long time for me to open up and talk and be free about this and speak about it and even understand where to scratch the surface. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still understanding how any of this works. I'm still understanding how people want to hear me talk, how they want to hear me yap, how they want to hear my story.
Right.
Because again, it's not about me. It's about we. It's about everybody else. This is just the beginning of everything. This is just the beginning of what we can do. This is just the beginning of spinning a positive role on something that's consistently negative. Mental health, although that wants to be positive, it's a negative topic. It is 100% a negative topic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those taboo things that people want to talk about.
Yep.
And I just want to tell people that it's not taboo, that it is something that needs to be spoken and it needs to be spread out loud. And because a lot of people are affected by it.
I agree.
Don't be ashamed if you suffer from mental health issues. It could be anything. It took me a long time to come to terms and to realize, it came out in the form of panic attacks because I didn't want to address my issues.
Yep.
And they progressed so rapidly in a short period of time. And they were compounding, through the years. I had small panic attacks and they just went away for years and then they'd come back. And just until recently, they just hit hard. They hit me so hard, I had to pull over and call my work and tell them that they asked me why I was turned around. Why was I coming back? And it's like, I'm not okay. I need help. I'm having a serious panic attack. I need somebody to come get me. And, fortunately enough, they were able to send somebody out to pick me up and take me to the hospital where my fiance had got me in to see a doctor. And obviously I'm doing therapy now and I take medications for it. But, my work, they totally understand. They weren't mad about the fact that I had to leave the truck, because they had other people that could do that,
Yeah.
But, with the compounding traumas, you never know when they're going to come and hit you.
You don't.
They come when they come.
Dude, I
when they
had
come,
to go to
it
Jersey
happens.
Turnpike.
Yeah, it hits you like a ton of bricks, and it could affect you in many different ways.
Yep. 1,000%. And I feel that. And first off, I'm sorry that's happening. Because when you seem to tell the story, sometimes people just dismiss it because they don't want to deal with it.
Right.
They're like, wow, that negative thing happened to you. Oh, that sucks. But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
It does fucking suck.
It does.
And I'm sorry that you're dealing with it because, unfortunately, firsthand, I know what that is.
Right.
I've had to pull over literally on the side of the road and find a hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yep. You feel like you're gonna die of a heart attack.
You know how scary that is.
Oh
It
yeah,
is,
I'm almost blacked out.
it's frightening. And it's
Yeah.
like, I couldn't even use methods that I know are tried and true to calm me down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough. It still is. And it's like, wow, like I can't believe over the last 2 years I've been in the hospital 4 times for that.
Wow.
What's going on in my life right now? Again, this was kind of like December, January-ish. I've started doing this. Mental health is a marathon. It's not a short-term race.
Right.
It can't be fixed by prescriptions. It can't be fixed just by therapy. It can't be fixed by any of that all the time. It's not just one single thing. It's a combination. And I'm not saying pharmaceuticals are bad or anything like that. I'm not saying that. It's not for me.
Right.
I chose alternatives. And I'll leave it at that for now for another discussion later on since we're live. But it's disheartening to see that there are organizations out there that are only concerned with pushing the next pill.
Right.
Making the next profit, making the next patient for life. You know what I've found that helped a lot of my friends that suffer through PTS? Let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve everything, okay? I'm not saying that's a one thing, but guess what? It's connection. It's a start. It's a start to understand that, like, people see, oh, why do you guys go on all these hikes? Why do you guys go outside? Why are you doing all of this? We're doing it because people need to get outside because fresh air does help. That's a component that people forget about because they're so concerned about scrolling through social media, scrolling through everything else, thinking that the grass is consistently greener on the other side, because that is a telltale sign of anxiety.
Right.
That is a telltale sign of depression. That is a telltale sign of a lot of things. And unfortunately, in this digital mind, in the digital way, we try to get rid of things. We try to get our mind off of stuff. We try to do everything that we can to distract. But when we distract, we avoid. And avoidance is a huge thing that, unfortunately, we can use this stuff as an aid. We can, let's scroll, but set a timer. Scroll for 5-10 minutes. Then go do something else. There's alternatives. When you're feeling upset, remove yourself from the situation. While it's not always possible, breathing techniques. Write it down. Start writing. Fidget with something. There has been a lot of improvements with what we can do as far as holistics as well.
Right.
And I'm not saying switch completely off, right? I don't want to convolute my message in any way by that, because it's a different strokes for different folks at all times. What works for me doesn't always work for you, and what works for you doesn't always work for me, right?
Exactly.
I am not immune from avoidance, my friend. I texted you I said, listen, I'm going to be 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
Just because I was avoiding a decision to make earlier about employment today that we could talk about way later. But it's things that you make, the decisions in your day that end up being a ripple effect throughout the rest of the time, right? Mm-hmm. And so, again, we touch back and we digress. But you've already learned this about me. I'll come back in a circle and we'll come back.
Yeah, circle back.
Circle back. We'll use that KPI. We'll use them corporate speak, whatever you want to talk about, right?
Yeah.
But the way that people cope works differently, and that's what I'm trying to get at. There is not a one pin solution. There is not a one pill solution. There is not a one therapy solution. There is not a one social media solution. Right. It's whatever's working for you at the time right now, and if it's healthy in that respect.
Exactly.
And I always feel like I'm grandstanding when I say things like that, because I'm consistently saying it to my kids. You don't need a screen to be happy. But here I am scrolling through TikTok, or scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, posting things, worrying about my next content, worrying about things like this. I mean, for 3 days, brother, I was sweating, writing notes. And I'm still going to get back to some of this. There used to be a saying, right, with the American Legion, and it was called welcome buddies. Welcome buddies means a lot because you have battle buddies,
Right.
right? You have battle buddies. You have everybody else like that. The people I've met through my service, through the Coast Guard and through the fire service, I could not talk to them for 10, 15 years. And guess what? I can pick up tomorrow on the day we left off.
Right.
That is nothing anyone can say about anywhere else in this employment. Maybe those folks have been in jail and prison and things like that because it is a family environment.
Mm-hmm.
But you're stuck with these people for a very long time. And it's not like you get to escape. When you're in the middle of the ocean, you can't just be like, man, I don't like you. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? You got to deal with it. You're dealing with people in age ranges from 17 all the way to like 48, 50 on a boat. When people talk about, I don't want to deal with old people. I don't want to deal with these people. I don't deal with anyone else like that. But guess what? You got to.
Yep.
I don't care about your age. I don't care about your color. I don't care about your religion. If you're a good person, you're going to be a good person. If you're a piece of shit trying to be a good person, you're trying to be a good person. You can come to me. We can talk. I haven't had the best life. That's okay. We're moving forward. And that's the point of this, right? I was going to come in and I was going to talk about a lot of things that I've seen in the service. I mean, shoot, like we spoke about before, my first fire call was a double decap. Or not double, it was a double priority 4, and then the next one was a decap, excuse me. But it was a double priority 4.
Yeah.
A double priority 4 at an intersection that I travel on a daily basis. That their spouses were in a car behind them and saw it happen. To understand that was my first fire call, it was a double fatality. Can you tell I've got a black cloud running through my life?
Yeah.
For a long time, I blamed it. For a long time, I was like, man, I've got the worst luck. I've got such bad luck. If I didn't have any bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all, right? We've all heard that.
Exactly.
I'm not like most. I process death in a completely different way. Who knows if that was from losing my mother in 2004 on Christmas Day? Probably. Death hasn't bothered me since, until I had kids, when I realized life is finite.
Right.
While we're here finite, our energy will carry on. And I've had experiences in the fact that I know that that's going to happen. So that part doesn't bother me anymore. And so 2 years ago, I was struck with kind of like a, what do I do moment. I'm sitting here with no job, about to lose my house, probably about to lose everything else, lose the truck. How am I going to make money without a truck? How am I going to live? How am I going to explain this to my family? At that point, I realized this, you know what? Is it me? Is there something about this that is not right? At that point, I realized it was one of those, excuse me, I'm so sorry. But it was kind of one of those things that, like, I knew for a fact that if my mother had still been around, she would have told me to suck it the fuck up.
Right.
Keep going. My old man was Special Forces. Love that man. It was tough growing up. I played high competitive hockey and I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I was a great athlete. I'm sure whatever he did worked. Okay. But that's not how I'm raising my kids.
Right.
I don't want them going through that. I don't want them waking up sweating in the middle of the day. I don't want them thinking about things back then that could have been better.
Mm.
Again, I'm not perfect. But I try to be better every day. Try to be better with my mental health every day. Not every day is a good mental health day for me. You can ask some of my friends. I suck at answering emails. I suck at getting back to people sometimes. Or I'm that friend who's going to get back to you within like 0.3 seconds. Or think about it and be like, hey, I don't want to get back to you yet. Like, is this too soon? Like, am I responding too soon? And I never realized that that's part of trauma.
Right.
That's a trauma response. You want to be there. You want to be like, I need to be there. I need to do this now. I need to go get it. I need to be, otherwise something's going to happen. Something's going to be wrong. I still think like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't break that way of thinking. And I've tried for so long to break that way of thinking. I stressed on the way over here because I knew I was going to be I thought I was going to be late, and I was a little bit. But just because we have a lot of things going on in our life, I'll digress a bit. We can't forget the mission at hand.
Right.
For my brothers and sisters in arms that were deployed, for those that were in combat zones, were in hot zones. I'll never know what they went through. Now I can tell you what it is being in Baltimore getting shot up. Here and that, for like work and construction. I can tell you what it is to be in these really horrible, horrible cities and in the worst parts of the cities. I work every day not to be there. I work every day to get out of that. I work every day to be the best person that I can be. Sometimes my mind tells me that I'm not that person. And I believe it. And I fucking believe it.
Yeah.
No matter how much medicine, no matter how much therapy, no matter how much everything else. I have those days where it's like, fuck this. And anyone who crosses me. But guess what? I still got to get up and go to work. I still got to get up and say good morning to the kids. I still got to get up and face the day. And I'm not going to say I, because we as people that go through this, we need to get up. We need to do this. We need to keep facing the day and keep the mission alive, right? And so I'm sorry, but I'm thinking about a lot of things, and it's like, I hate thinking about myself like that in a helpless manner, because it's a weakness, right? Like, and so I was talking to one of my friends earlier. We were talking about emotion, and sometimes it's very hard for me to even perceive it or show it.
Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who serve, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.